The first question I wanted to throw at you guys, which I kind of alluded to earlier, was are dating apps a waste of time? Like, are they all stump grinders? Are they all like disgusting? Like, you're not going to get any results. They're not going to match with you. Like, what's your experience been from that angle?
I mean, I kick things off with that. In my experience, I would say it depends on two factors, right? It depends on what particular apps you're using, and then two, what is your level of skill in making it work for you.
Cool.
So, depending on your personality type, like if you're more of that more kind of alpha playboy type of individual, then something like a match.com is probably not going to be better for you, right? Or like a Christian Mingle or a JDate, because those are definitely a lot more monogamous, traditional relationship oriented type sites or apps versus other sites, which are going to be a lot more conducive to your personality style if you want to just like have a lot more dates and, get out and have a bit more fun. So your things like Bumble and Tinder. And then, of course, I still would consider this site to be part of the general dating app sphere, but it's kind of in its own category, which is going to be a site kind of like Seeking, which is one of those where, everyone that says, oh,
Yeah,
there's
you'll
no such
always
thing.
get different quality girls. But I mean, the question that I
Right.
wanted to ask was like, let's say on a scale of 1 to 10, with like 10 being bombshell and 1 being a sea donkey, or stump grinders, as the Irishman would call it. Like, what are you finding on average on dating sites that you're generally connecting with when you're going out with them? Like, are we talking sevens, eights, sixes? Like, what are you dealing with?
Yeah, it's a mix,
Tens?
but I'll say the general average, which is kind of like the general average in life,
Mm-hmm.
is you're going to be generally going between the 5 to like lower tier 8 range. That's going to be your general curve.
Yeah.
The exception to that rule, obviously, is going to be site like Seeking, where there's going to be a lot of tens and nines on that site. Just it's over flooded, but that again, that's its own kind of separate bubble. But as far as the general dating app space, because part of my job going out and consulting people is I just got everything and was just hopping on everything and seeing the general space. You're getting between the 5 to 8 range on there, and then of
Okay.
course you get a couple of your nines or so sprinkled in
Okay,
there.
so I mean, like, we're not talking stump grinders like our friend posted in the comments as soon as I generated the event. From your experience, Jaron, what are you seeing from your angle? Because I mean, you're in southwestern U.S. You travel a lot, to Latin America. So, what's your experience been with women and what they look like?
It really depends on the app and it depends on the market. So, as was just mentioned, for Seeking, for example, you will get like the eights, nines, tens. But I've found I always use a mind game, what I call the pain in the ass factor. So yeah, I can get those, but it's going to be a lot more effort. And then usually on the back end, it's not going to be as much fun. I'm not going to get as much out of it. I'll have to constantly be on the entire time, and I usually kind of like to chill when I have my experiences.
Mm-hmm.
So I can go for the eight, nines, tens on Seeking, but there's going to be a lot more work involved, and maybe the return is not necessarily what I want to put in on the front end.
So,
I find
if I
that
understand
best
you
is
correctly, what you're basically saying is that you'd prefer a pleasant 7 than a bitchy 10.
yeah. I usually date in the 6, 7, 8 range. Just
Okay.
real nice, pleasant, feminine, fun girls. I've broken down the community how I set up my profile. I'm a digital marketer by trade, so I
Yeah.
set it down just like an inbound sales funnel. It says right
Did
on
you ever
there.
read the
This is
book
this
Inbound
is the
Marketing?
experience. I'm sorry.
Did you ever read the book Inbound Marketing?
No, I need to add that to my reading list. I believe
It's
John from
old. It's about 10
NLD
years old, but
recommended
it
that
but
too.
but it kind of sets the mindset in from the marketing frame of things, with business, but you can also apply the same concepts to, drawing traffic in, when it comes to ladies too, right?
Yeah, and that's essentially what I do. So I craft it like an offer, just like
Hmm.
you're selling any goods or services online. Swipe right. Here's what you're gonna get. I usually do like 420 sunset snuggles. In Spanish, I'll do the translation of it, and then I'll say a serenade if you're lucky. And culturally, they all kind of know what that means. It already
Hmm.
kind of sets the tone. I put my Instagram right there, and then usually I've found in this market that Bumble's the best. In the U.S. It's usually kind of later 20s, early 30s, but here it runs a wide range, and they're usually more professional girls. So I know on Bumble here when I swipe right that I'm gonna get the match, and that's just because I'm in a different foreign market where I believe my SMV is perceived higher than what it would be elsewhere. If I were in
Got
LA,
it.
I would not have the success
All
to
right.
be forthcoming.
All right. Well, let me
So
throw that
so
question over to Moff.
yeah,
Sorry.
yeah.
Okay. Unless you
Oh,
wanted
I
to
was gonna say,
top.
I was gonna say, yeah. So you swipe,
Yeah.
The offer's there, and when they match, they already know what they're going to get. So usually you'll have a stack of matches.
We'll save the strategies for like when we kind of
Let's do
dive
that.
down the
Okay,
rabbit
cool.
hole a little bit more.
Yeah, let's do
Moff,
that.
so what's your experience been? Because you're in northeastern U.S. What are you, like 29, 28?
I'll be 30 in February.
Look young, man. So what's your experience been with dating women in your city? Like, are we talking 7s, 8s, 9s? Like,
Yeah, I would echo the sentiments with my other gentleman on the panel here. I mean, it's I would say between that 5 and low 8 range. But we know like the top tier 9 out of 10 women from a look standpoint are just not really on the apps. I mean, they probably were, and I think they were during the pandemic as a function of the need for attention, right? Because they're not going out to bars and parties and getting hit on by guys. So it's just that extra validation that they wanted they couldn't get out in public. I mean, to answer the question, though, of are they a waste of time? The simple answer is no. They are, and I will always say this, they are a useful tool, but they shouldn't be the only tool on your belt. And the three major pros that I see, and I have cons as well for apps, but when it comes particularly for guys, the first one is just a pure volume standpoint. So if you wanted to approach, say, 100 women, and let's say you approached a woman at a rate of one chick every 5 minutes, it would take you like 8 or 9 hours to get to 100. It would take you all day. You can do that on a dating app approach, as in like swipe on a chick left or right, or even swipe right in 5 minutes or 10 minutes, right? The second one is you have a general understanding, or there's a certain degree of certainty that women on dating apps are not in relationships, and the context is proper. They're looking for dating, romance, relationships, etc. So you're not getting the "I have a boyfriend" excuse or whatever that might be. And I think a third one, which is really huge, that Renegade Wingman talks about a lot, is the importance of text game. And because the vast majority of our interactions, whether it's personal relationships, friendships, family, even work at this point, is all through text. Like 99% of all our interactions are text. Mm-hmm. So if you don't know how to communicate over text message, if you don't know how to properly convey tone or to flirt or to be funny, it's really tough out there. So it really puts you in the arena to expand your volume, get comfortable texting and then getting off and setting dates through the phone, which what every guy should be doing. And then also is the proper context of, those basic high level objections of boyfriend, husband, relationship. You're not really seeing that a lot.
Okay, cool. All right, Stump Grinder, talk to me, brother.
Here, guys.
Yeah, you're muted. Oh, there you go.
Yeah, yes. Here we go. Yeah, well, my experience is any girl you meet in real life that you match with is at least half a point to 1.5 points below what she looks like on the app.
Oh, yeah.
So if you match with an 8, she's either going to be a 7.5 or a 6.5. There's no 10s. They're going to be 8.5 or 8s. It's just a fact of it. And again, you have to realize that these apps are products, and their business model is to keep you on there as long as possible. Yep. Their business model is not to get you matched and send you into happily ever after. They got to keep you on there. So a little trick that I use is I moderate my parameters every now and then. So if you go into your Tinder account and you adjust the mileage and you adjust the age, what will happen is it'll start throwing girls that are in that new mileage and that new age range up to you. So sometimes I'll have it out to 30 miles. Next evening I'll bring it down to 15, and it'll start throwing up a lot more girls within that radius. And just to reinforce what Moff said about Wingman is, since I took his advice on board to inject more of your personality into your text game, things just took off exponentially for me, because I just I started being me instead of hey, if you ask a girl how was your weekend, that'll dry her up quicker than the Sahara Desert. I mean, it's like, how's it going? How was your weekend? I mean, how was work today? That's literally saying, can I bore you to death, please?
Can I be your best friend?
Can I be your best friend? If you, because this sense, when you're able to drop jokes with sarcasm, some of your personality in there, it's conveying that you're confident and you really don't, and sometimes I will post my greatest hits in the group. And I had one girl, she said, I'm looking for something long-term and serious. And she unmatched straight away, because I responded with, have you tried a 30-year fixed rate mortgage? Didn't like that at all. And other girls are like lighting up thinking that's hilarious, and they're like, oh, you're funny. So again, you've got to have your personality in there.
Right? Yeah,
it's a good thing to it's a good thing to disqualify them though. So I'll ask those direct questions right up in the front end, like, hey, you in a good mood or a bad mood tonight? Like, what the hell are you talking about? I'm like, all right, well, there's
your
my
bad
answer.
mood done.
Yeah, if she's like, oh, what you thinking? What you thinking, hottie? You're like, all right, this chick is in a good mood. I'm in a good mood. And then again, sell the experience. And an addendum to the location thing. Yeah. If you ever like start getting kind of lower down your stack, you notice the girls are like 5s and 4s. If you have the premium version of the app, drop it in a market where you're just going to blow the sexual market competition out of the water. Like, I don't want to name a place, but like dirty, like really gross Latin American cities that I know, like the people I live with tell me don't ever go there. Right. All right, I'll drop it right there. I'll get boosted right back to the top. You don't have to swipe or like them, and then you go back to your market, and you'll notice that the
does that actually boost your value?
I've seen it.
That's actually a really clever trick. That's
the algorithm.
Very clever way to hack the algorithms. All right, so Jason, I don't know if you caught the early bit before you popped in, but the question to like kind of kick this off was, as soon as I created this event, there's somebody that just slammed in the comments and just threw up all over the place, saying something to the effect of, "Don't even bother. The women there are gross, blah blah blah," sort of thing, or they're very low quality, or some combination of that. So, what's your experience been with women using dating apps where you live?
So I guess I'll give you guys my experience, and the gals I'm dating are, this can sound crazy because you guys see me on here and you're like, this dude. I dated 3 gals. One's a current model. There are 2 other were former models, and I'm 6 feet tall with a pair of boots on, right? So it's not like I'm some Chad, ripped with 6-pack abs and all that nonsense. And a lot of the gals I've dated too are, they're business owners. I've dated some doctors. And I think that's one of the things I found is, at least with the gals I date, typically I'm dating those kind of higher level professional folks, if that makes sense.
Yep.
Because you guys know they date across and they date up. They don't date down. So there's a lot of really great, beautiful women who are very successful that are just not going to date, average dudes.
Well, that's the biggest complaint that a lot of like university educated professional women have, is that they have a hard time finding successful guys that, can satisfy the whole hypergamy curve, right?
Yeah. And that's where the different sites come into play, because different girls are looking for different things on different sites. Whereas you get a lot of girls that are saying, hey, I want to go on the Bumble sites because I'm looking for, I don't want to deal with the typical Tinder bros. So I want like a little bit more of an established guy. That's what pushes a lot of girls over to like a Match.com or like a Seeking, which is like, hey, we want guys that we know are like well established. And like how they go about trying to lock down those established guys, that's a little bit different. But just as far as like, knowing where the fish are going, that's very, very important to your strategy of like, okay, what type of girl am I trying to attract? Am I trying to attract the girls that just want to kind of like hang out and have fun? Because I've met a lot of, girls, especially during the pandemic, right? I'm 23 years old. I'm bored at home. All right, yeah, let me go on some dating apps and let me just, see who's around and who's interesting, and wound up having that work out really well for me. 2020 is a very productive year. But again, you have to understand where exactly are the types of girls that you're looking for. What are they going for? So when you are on apps, don't just be on apps and just be like, all right, I'm swiping left, I'm swiping right. Like, take some mental notes. Like, hey, these are the type of girls that I typically seem to be running on this particular platform. Let me go bounce over to Hinge and see what type of girls are on there. I would not recommend it because the typical demographic on Hinge is pretty extreme. But, again, you don't know that until you start taking
What is the Hinge
notes.
Like demographic, if you can explain it, because I'm not on dating apps, so I'm just trying to get.
It's what the nightmare stories of what you think the typical girls on dating app, like troll type individuals. There typically are a lot of them are very, very prevalent on Hinge. So
when you say 30 to 35-year-olds.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Like
it's like the serious,
more urban centers,
settle down,
well into the wall.
University education, yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
right,
and
right.
it's
that demographic. And you only get like 10 a day too. So I like efficiency. So
Right.
for ones like Tinder or Bumble, like
Yeah,
I can
that's the
sit on
good
the
thing
toilet.
about dating apps
bam.
is they are quite efficient. I mean, I started using them in the early 2000s with like the whole Lava Life and LimeWire, or was it LimeWire or Lemon Tonic or some shit like that. Early days, and I always found them very, very efficient, but it was just like an add-on to what you were doing.
Right. I mean, it's like during 2020 when I met some girls in the world beforehand, but when things first started kind of locking down, right, and I was using the apps, I took like some notes and just was breaking down some of the statistics. And so the first month I was on those apps, I had conversations with 246 girls.
Oh, yeah.
So 246 girls, right? That's a lot of conversational experience that I'm getting and gaining right there.
That was just like text conversation?
Yep, just text conversation.
How
and
many
then
of the
usually
246 turned into an actual face-to-face meetup?
So that was the unique and interesting part, because with 2020, I got a lot more exposure because everyone was there because there was a lockdown, but a lot more people were very hesitant, right? Because it's like, well, it's Corona. We're not sure if we can like go outside, or if our Amazon packages are like going to poison us. So of those 246, wound up actually meeting up with 18 that first month. A couple I met up with a couple months later. But
Would you
I'm
guys
out
say
meeting
that that's
18.
pretty consistent, with your experiences? Like
That's exactly my experience.
246 matches, you meet about 18 face-to-face?
I've been a little bit different where, because I just
Basically about 1 in 10.
Yeah, I'm running probably about 30%, but I don't spend most of my time on apps. So for me, I love going out to, Texas is open. I mean, Texas has been open for like a year. So I'm out in the clubs, I'm at bars, I'm, hosting, our real estate events and all that stuff. And so I meet a lot of folks that way. But I have noticed the rate of attrition is much lower, obviously on the dating apps, right? Because Paul says this, right? You're just an avatar.
Yeah.
Like you're just some like
You're just a floating head picture.
Yeah, you're like
You're a
they don't
digital
know you.
offer. You're a potential experience. And if you view the sexual marketplace, it literally, when you're on an app, it is the actual sexual marketplace on a platform.
Yeah.
And you are looking at potential offers and view it like an auction. When I go through my Bumble stack and there's 200 of them, I will look at the 20 that are most interested, respond to them. And usually before I start work for the day, before 8 or 9 p.m., I can have a couple lined up for the day, accounting for flakes, and guaranteed have something that night. And you can get really efficient at it. If you start viewing it, literally, it's just an auction of the potential inbound offers. And as you're responding to 20, she's also responding to 20. So it's just, it's like when you look at a stock trading floor, you're all trying to get in your bids. And when the music stops, whoever's going to end up with whoever. I find out if it's like a last minute Hail Mary in Mexico, by 8 p.m., everyone's kind of locked in their plans for the night. And if I go on at 8 p.m., there will be inbound offers of girls who had plans canceled, didn't fall through, whatever happened during the day, whereas earlier they weren't interested. 8 p.m. is the hour for that.
Yeah,
so
and
you start to learn your marketplace and know how to guide it efficiently.
And it's really gamified the space. I mean, as I tell,
It is gamified, yes.
I tell my clients all the time, it's like, look, all Tinder did was it globalized and popularized the game Smash or Pass and just brought it to everybody. So, because I mean, that's really what it is, right? It's like, smash, pass, smash, pass. And so now it's gamified it to that level. So I think that's where there's a little bit of a disconnect between the way a lot of guys that experience a lot of frustration with dating apps, where they view it. Again, we're not saying, solely do this 100%, because I'm sure pretty much everyone here, like it's a maybe 10 to maybe 20% at the most of any of our activity in the dating world. But at the same time, it is a very good way for you to meet people, get a lot of experience. But I think a lot of times guys don't realize the gamification aspect of it. So they take it a little bit too serious, a little bit too personal, rather than having a little bit of like, hey, it's kind of a game. And I get, my prize of this game is like, to meet someone up in person.